Okay, welcome back, everybody. And hello to everyone on the live stream. Thank you so much for joining us. Our first featured poet of this evening is Christina Shah, who's come all the way to from Vancouver over on the ferry, and we're so happy that she made it. Christina's poetry has appeared in numerous journals, including the Fiddlehead, Vallum, Arc, Brine, PRISM International, Event, the Malahat Review, and more. She is 1/5 of Harbour Centre 5 Poetry Collective, 1/5 of the Harbour Centre 5 Poetry Collective, whose chapbook Brine was released in 2022. Her first video poem, Veda, in collaboration with videographer Mark Mushet, was translated into Spanish and screened at the 2023 Cinemistica Festival in Spain, and in 2023, Versi Di Luce Festival in Sicily. And Veda is her first solo chapbook with Anstruther Press, and it was released in 2023. Please welcome Christina Shah.
I am tall, I'm gonna adjust this.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
My apologies.
Too much time on my phone, right? I'm just like this.
How's that?
That is great. Thank you. Everybody can hear me adequately? Wonderful. Yeah, thank you all for coming out. Thank you to Kieran for hosting me tonight. What a wonderful thing to be here. Thank you to Leanne Boschman and my idol, Kate Braid, who's in the audience. It's a dream come true. We've got a few friends in Ontario tuning in as well. My wonderful publisher, Jim Johnstone at Anstruther, who's also got a book coming out in April. And Rob Coleman, my editor, without which Veda would not be possible, a wonderful champion of my work, and he's also tuning in. And he's got a book that I'm so excited to read. It's called Ghost Work that he just launched yesterday. So stay tuned for that because they're coming out in the week of April 10th. They're going to be on the West Coast, so don't miss that. Okay, so first poem. My husband and Paul and I were driving down the coast of California, and I saw these twisted trees on the coast, and they'd been battered by the wind and the salt spray. And for those who don't know me, I work in heavy industry. I'm one of very few women in that line of work, and I thought, I'm kind of like those trees. And so tonight, my reading is dedicated to Kate Braid, who is a real trailblazer, and I carried her work with me even before before I wrote this book, and so she knows what this is about. Dig in. Learn to become lignin, living but stiff. The interdependent men will talk over you, at you, about you. Object, topic. Nascent agent. Put your roots down and pretend. The storms are normal. Your tissues will become inflamed by the fine salt spray of casual abrasions. You will be scarred by lightning indignities. The fight's a grind, each quiet ring, each arthritic old limb, a lonely, lovely victory. Well, I used to work for an independent machine builder, and I used to go pick up his parts for him. And so this is written about an auto parts store that I used to go to most days. It's called Parts Run. The industrial stop and go, the old in and out, daily pockets of waiting as a courier of rubber veins and steel elbows for weeping machines. The parts counter, a sort of standing mechanics lounge, friendly hellos and sideways eyes for the woman with teal tile nails. It's worse in tank top weather. A few drown in the pitcher plant of her cleavage. Then back on Highway 1, AC greasy snarling about high and hard living, sitting, spine calcifying, one bead in the pain chain, weaving itself together onto the bridge, then speed, slowing only for the RCMP pit vipers hiding past the curves while mentally mapping the pinball traps of previous tickets. She's a dancer, a drive wheel, geared up in steel-toed plant and neon orange torso rolling into the yard with vulcanized organs and a double-double for the dirty surgeon. So all this kind of started when I was working in all the work poetry, when I was working in a bar frequented by tradesmen in the North End, which is an industrial part of Saskatoon. And so I started writing about like portraits of some of my customers. And this guy was a handful. And I ended up wrestling his keys out of his hand in the parking lot. And then the owner drove him home. And that's the people used to do that back in the day, but used to stay there all day and drink and talk. So this is called Scott. The young sheet metal shapeshifter jerks his hoodie aside to show the shitheel marks, copyright symbols hunted and pecked along the smooth dunes of his neck and back by the weekend's one-hit wonder, now scattered 2 provinces over. She was a BC girl, you're a BC girl, he says, like it's some fine-grained terroir. So sure, like I might be more, so sure he could show me a thing or two, despite my 5 fingers of life's ringer on him. This barroom Dante displays a harlequin calf, imprinted damnation of his own design. The man is night blind. I am just the ferry captain with a liquor gun to steer this rickety room, thin soulless in low-rise jeans. Thank you. I write a lot about endings, it turns out. So we just had another mill close in Powell River, and my husband actually used to work there many years ago. I still know a lot of people walking around today who used to work in that mill, and so this is a bit of a tribute to that. Shuttered. Everyone's now at the age where you only go back up for funerals. Before dirtbags wake, you send me a photo of a quiet engine, a town without mitochondria. The old mill sags past its chain link veil. Security was the building with the blue facing, paper machines, number 5 to 8 down the hill and to the left, number 9 and to 11 back and to the right. Smoke and steam all bled out. Working age population dissipated to the bigger smoke. Not even a whisper of previous vibration. The young years you spent in the doghouse whenever number 10 wasn't haying out, drinking coffee and staring at the gray while dreaming of a world beyond its walls to prevent the black liquor stranding your mind while the money rolls in. The 6 a.m. horn, that industrial muezzin, would sound the corporate call to labor, and the day shift's legion of guys in Campbell River dinner jackets would shuffle down the hill to deliver the world its blank page. More here. I like to write a lot about the environments and some of the mechanics, especially some of these guys who gave me my first jobs, and many of them have retired or are close to retirement. So yeah, this is a bit of a tribute to them. Sunset crew, get off the tools, put down your metric wrench and emerge from under that shit-caked belly pan. Flush the grit from your eyes. The world needs you, eats you after hours every day it can. Doctor and saint, deus e machina, of Quonset monasteries, lock block altars, and gravel pastures. They call you to attend the sputtering and dying, goldenrod iron, whose 4-wire arteries are stiff with foreign ions. Every day your ribs ache, and you remain turning the reason rod. They would call you into your 80s if they could. A graybeard coach in a twill shop coat, whose sons have wandered away, still weighing in, still gardening stunted city kids. All right, one more. This is one of my favorites. It was written for a beloved middle manager. Not a lot of odes to middle management out there. But you know what? I like to write about when the corporate world does bad things to good people, which means I'll never run out of material. And yeah, so actually I still work for this guy today. And so it's got a happy ending and we all had the last laugh. So, and this was actually shortlisted for the Ralph Gustafson Award in 1921. It feels like forever sometimes for in 2021. So it's called They Canned a Good Man Today. First Super J. First thing Monday. A hydrogen zeppelin of political dog shit. Your office stripped of its habs memorabilia. We can't find you. Some backie's jackass flies in to finger gun us while we burn. They canned a good man today, left your bereft flock in the pleather desert, marooned in the boardroom of the sweat hog branch during a plague, a heat wave, and a price war. It was a corporate apocalypse with ashen spectators, your splintered proteges suddenly rudderless. We sit, fishes eviscerated, fidgeting over your dead body. And this stable genius asks us how we feel about this. We are treated to his greasy megalomania over Industrial Park Szechuan takeout on a vacant shop floor, frothy jocularity, boorish erasure, fake laughs and nominal note-taking in this Kool-Aid cavitation. Let's circle back to lunacy. Hell, let's spiral down. Delusions of dystopian datafication, how he cleverly hid assets from his ex-wife, his backcountry daring do, portaging a canoe solo somewhere among the black flies, his MBA. We thank him for his service and wish him luck with his future endeavors. All I know is shit runs downhill and payday's Friday. Thank you.
Wow, I just love that so much. What an incredible voice. Thank you, Christina. Thank you so much for being here. Wow. You blew me away so much that I forgot my paper. Next, I would like to welcome Ronna Bloom. Ronna Bloom is the author of 7 collections of poetry. Her poems have been recorded for the CNIB, used in healthcare, and translated into Bangla, Chinese, and Spanish. Pretty amazing. Her collection Permiso was shortlisted for the Pat Lowther Award. Cloudy with a Fire in the Basement was shortlisted for a Read It Award. The Moor was longlisted for the City of Toronto Book Award. And she's also had wild things happen, like in collaboration with Plant Architects, her poem, The City, was painted 30 meters long on King Street in Toronto for the summer of 2018. Her most recent book is A Possible Trust, The Poetry of Ronna Bloom, a selected works with an introduction by Phil Hall. So it's pretty exciting, and I'm really happy to welcome Ronna.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you, Kieran, for hosting. Thank you, Zoe, for inviting me. Thank you at Russell Books for this incredible space, which I could get lost in. I'm looking at you. Can I take your picture? You're so beautiful. Really, sorry, I gotta. Thank you. Whoops. I have never, really never had heard such a compelling open mic ever. Really, I was knocked out. And Christina fucking blew me away. Sorry, but that's okay. This book is a book of selected poems, which means there are poems from all of my previous books, most of which are out of print now, which is why there's this book. And then there are 6 new poems. So I'm gonna read through sort of mostly chronologically, not all of it, but to get a sense of how it shifts. My work, I guess, has shifted over the time. The first poem in the book is called The City. You can hear me okay? Just want to look at you a little more. A network of roads spreads finely through fields, between tower blocks and building sites. It spins through highways and downtowns. Dangerous neighborhoods await arteries. Maps the city Toronto to the city Dublin to the city London, all converge. Circle Road, Ring Road. I am going out all the exits on the highway at the same time, mapping a leg to a shoulder, a memory to a hill, a blue vein to an arm, cross sections of the past. Young Street meets King north of Piccadilly Circus like a skin graft. Major intersections cross the body. I don't know where I'm going. And the city calls to my voices, my limbs, all my uncertain directions, saying, lie down in the not knowing, lie down in me. That was the poem that was painted on King Street, and I got to lie down on the words, which was like very cool. So I want to thank Nancy for reading that that poem that came from Hearing the Job of an Apple, and I'll read the original just for the fun of it. The job of an apple is to be hard, to be soft, to be crisp, to be red, yellow, and green. The job of an apple is to be pie, to be given to the teacher, to be rotten. The job of an apple is to be bad and good, to be peeled, cored, cut, bitten, and bruised. The job of an apple is to pose for painters, roll behind fridges, behind grocery aisles, to be hidden, wrapped in paper, stored for months, brought out in the dry heat of India and eaten like a treasure. The job of an apple is to be handed over in orchards, to be wanted and forbidden. The job of an apple is to be golden delicious, Granny Smith and crab. The job of an apple is to be imported, banned, and confiscated, going through customs from Montreal to New York. The job of an apple is to be round, grow, drop, to go black in the middle when cut, to be thrown at politicians, to be carried around for days, to change hands, to change hands, to change hands. The job of an apple is to be a different poem in the mouth of every eater. The job of an apple is to be juice. Thank you. So I need a little water. When one of my books was coming out, the publisher sent me author's pages, which you have to fill out with all kinds of questions. And one of the questions was, what are the demographics of this book? Yeah, and there's some faces in the audience like, exactly what I felt like. What do I answer for this question? It's like a crazy question. So I wrote about it to try to find out what to answer the question, and I ended up writing a poem which ended up in the book. So this is called Demographics. Men and women, teachers, hospital workers, politicians, people who shop at Loblaws, cake bakers, people who are retired, vulnerable, lost, who don't know the names of things, pretzel eaters, artists, people who've been to any kind of gallery, who ride bicycles, subways, people who walk on oily gravel roads, get parking tickets, pay, have fallen in love with paramedics, people who are intimate with the mouths of flowers, people compelled to watch the Academy Awards, disgusted, who watch news on television, people who want attention without saying so, whose bodies fill with anxiety like a liquid, who love something that won't leave them and something that will. Warriors who take vitamins, ambivalent people, scared people who do things, anyone willing. Thank you. Are you included in that? Goodbye to all the rooms. She thanked the shower for its heat in winter, its ferocious strength. Told her bedroom she would miss it. First place she created, indeterminate color between peach and pink. Burnt a picture of her old dead self in the kitchen sink. Tore up all the rules and threw some of that Tibetan dust off the balcony, thinking, where is home now that this isn't? Whose arms? Which pocket holds the fear? I've been a person in a whole body who lives mostly in the skin. Before you can leave a place, you must say goodbye to all the rooms. You must say hello to them. I'm ready now. This body with its curves, this mind with its angles, these greedy arms. This is a little poem. Permiso. There is a tree in my heart, and I don't know its name. It stands straight behind my breasts like a closed tulip. Permiso, it says. Allow me. Thank you. This was a last minute request. You'd only known, right? The peace you are waiting for will not come. The sleep you are wanting, the space you are longing to protect. The body you are trying to deplete and pump at the same time will not do both. There is nothing that will happen later. There is no point saving it. Time off isn't about moments preserved. It is not going to get quieter until it is over for good. What are you going to do about it? No one knows what you are carrying, nor will you get any points for carrying it. No one is waiting in the wings to ask if they can hold you while you rest. Another very short poem. Grief without fantasy. What I lost was not going to happen. I had what happened. There was no more. What I lost was not going to happen. I had what happened. There was no more. It goes by too fast. I needed to read it twice. So a lot of this book has to do with working in community in different ways and using poetry in different ways in the world. Poetry, as there are poems I write for myself and for books, and then there's sort of what I call service poetry, which sometimes ends in a book. And I was the poet in community at U of T for many, many years, which is a job I created using poetry for workshops with students that was not in their curriculum. It wasn't about grades or judgment. It was about accessing something and a place for them to express parts of themselves. And it was quite a cool thing. And one of the things I did in that context, which I still do, is called the spontaneous poetry booth, where I sit at a table with a sign that says, "Poet is in." And people come and sit, and I ask, what do you need a poem for? And then I write the poem. And then I give it to them. And I've done this in a lot of places. I've done this in universities and in hospitals a lot, and in fundraisers. And there's a place in Toronto called Harbour Front, which is some of you may know it. It's a big arts venue. And they had a festival called Brave, the Festival of Risk and Failure, which I kind of love the name of. And I was there for 2 days doing it. And a man came to the booth and sat down. And I think of myself as an open person, but you know, there's always more open you can get. And this man sat down, and he was so there, I got very nervous. And he put his hands out like this, and he said, "My soul is right here." And I went like this. And I thought, no, you can't do that. You know, you have to move forward. And I touched his fingers. And then I calmed right down. And I saw his eyes were very clear. And then I did something that I never do, which is I didn't write him a poem. I just listened to what he said, and I wrote as fast as I could. And it just sort of what he said. And it wasn't like a poem, you know what I mean? But then I asked him after I read it to him, I said, "What should we call this?" And he said, "Don't be superficial, because we'll soon find out." At one time, there was the death of a father. At one time, there was the death of a brother. And at one point, there was a brain surgery. And it was all just one moment. I'm not just a feeling, I'm seeing. I have sight and insight. And I'm here committed to breathing, joy and painting until there's nothing left. I believe in peace with yourself. And I need to hear my voice. I hear feelings that are the truth of another. I don't protest. I profess love and the abundance of tomorrow that I may never see. For David George Thomas Shipley. And then, so one of the other sort of big pieces of work in my life has been working in hospitals and with healthcare professionals. And for many years, I was poet in residence at Sinai Health. And I had a friend, a colleague who was undergoing chemo at the time. And she asked me to come to the chemo unit with poems. At the time, there was another iteration, there still is another iteration where I prescribed the poems. So the poems are actually on prescription pads. They're already written. They're like poems by Emily Dickinson or Langston Hughes or Lucille Clifton or some by me. And so they're there, and I ask what do you need a poem for? And then I say I can double dose, and I can give as many poems as seems to fit, and I wear a white coat. There's a whole, it's a little, but it's very playful so that it's inviting, but it's also quite serious, right? And I did the poems for her. She rested, and then I walked around the chemo unit and talked to other people, and I asked if they wanted poems. And then I came home and I wrote this poem. It's called Appointment in Samara. 30 people in chemo today, multiplied by X hospitals in Y countries and Z universes. Back here, H smiles through 4 syringes of chemicals, 2 bags of saline, and a flush of life-giving killer liquid. White-haired sisters in their 70s share clippings of their modeling days with shirtless men in big cars, take selfies holding up their matching drips. A woman in the corner looks exactly like what is happening to her. Pale and bald, like coal after a fire. Slap me good and hard with mortality while I'm strong. My body wants to run as though it's seen a ghost. Rest. Rest. Little poem. In my bed, I'm restless. I want a fellow moon to look at the moon with. What is the old lady across doing up so late? Hello, other moon. So there are some new poems in this book. Somehow, for some reason, I was not very with it when I got this organized and I wrote that there's only one new poem, but there are 6. And next year there will be a new book, all of the new poems. But I will read, is there time for 2? Yeah, okay. The first one is called Bukowski. One night, my guy says I'm not mean enough or funny enough to be a good poet. He's just read Bukowski out loud. Bukowski can fight and confide, so why bother? I agree, but say nothing, which makes me no poet at all now, but a chronicler who wants to sleep and is awoken by the wish to be mean and funnier. To be somebody like Bukowski. But when I look, there's a lot of flotsam, jetsam, no pain and wishes, my own shenanigans, but nobody here. Nobody to be. The relief of that is like being let out of a jail made of my own emojis and desperation, or taking my bra off at night. The difference between a bad poet and a good one is luck, Bukowski wrote, and having your finger in a light socket. Bukowski knew he was nobody. That's what makes him so great. Come to think of it, Emily Dickinson knew first and said so. Everybody knows they're nobody. Why is this such a problem for us? So the last poem I'll read is Clothes. I took off my body like a shirt, and what came out was also me, but empty. For skin and clothes are just illusion keepers, and maintenance is a lot of work. So for a minute, I took off my corset self and went flagrant. If you look with all your eyes, you can see through to the garden behind me. It helps, I find, to dress for God, who, if present, is what everyone wears underneath. Thank you so much. Thank you.